Well. UFC San Antonio, Vera versus Sandhagen is in the books. And I'm here to give you the Mio thoughts on everything that happened, everything that's coming on after this. Obviously, for fighters, I do a little matchmaking here. I tell you about the fights. I tell you about the post-fight. And, let's just get on to it. Although, before we do, give me a like, give me a follow, give me a subscription, whatever it is on the platform you're listening to this on. And check out the links down below for the MMA, the Mio on MMA Discord, where you can get in on the Mixed Martial Arts Simulator. It's a fun time for sort of a mix of RPG and MMA fandom and nerdiness. So, check it out. All right, so this card was pretty good, actually. All things considered, the main event was very, very solid. Corey Sandhagen versus Marlon Vera. That was going to deliver, and it did. Holm versus Yana Santos was as exciting as Holm fights get, and has given, a lovely bit of political discourse in MMA circles, where people are kind of outing themselves as super conservatives. Now we'll get more into that, but I want to leave this here right now. I have no problem with MMA fighters having politics I don't agree with, or having beliefs I don't agree with, having conspiracy theories I don't agree with. It's kind of par for the course. It's legitimately par for the course that people who get punched in the head for a living, for rather little money, in the grand scheme of things, would have views that normal people are not going to agree with and are going to find a little bit crazy. I actually have literally no problem with that. The problem I have with what Holm is doing is what we tend to hear when a fighter spouts a far right conspiratorial idea or a far left conspiratorial idea. And then they really, they know what they said. Everyone knows the dog whistles. Everyone knows the code words and so on because they're all over the media. And if you want to claim you don't know, you would have to. It's kind of like there's a guy on Twitter recently who former UFC fighter Noli Hernandez, or at least that was the name on it. I don't know if it's actually Noli. I suppose I should just stick with some guy because it's an unverified Twitter account. But one of the female fighters, I think it was KGB Lee, we're going to talk about it later, was talking about the ugliness of Volkanovski and Makhachev. Which, whatever, your mileage may vary on any mixed martial arts fighter. But the sort of gotcha moment was if this was a man who was saying this about women fighters, we would crucify them. And that just ignores the history of objectification of female MMA fighters, by the promotion, by other fighters, by analysts, by fans, by social media. It's the sort of thing that, no, you can't claim that you don't know anything about. So when you go up there and regardless of the political point, the conspiracy you're backing, whatever, and you use the dog whistles to emphasize, to reach out to those people, you can't then go, no, this is not what I meant. What I was talking about was just really way more general. But I'm not going to give you specifics. Anyways, that's the Holm situation. We'll get deeper into that, but not much deeper, but we'll get a little deeper. It's not. I disagree with your politics. No, I disagree with the fact that you're not owning your politics. Frankly, go out there and tell us what you really think. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, that fight was about as good as you could expect. Nate Landwehr, Austin Lingo was fun. Lee versus Barber was frustrating. So was Chidi versus Duraev. Daniel Pineda took a lot. Really, really fun. Always is. Daniel Pineda is a wild man. Steven Peterson, Lucas Alexander was frustrating. Trevor Giles, Preston Parsons was perfectly fine. It didn't feel super high level, but I also didn't expect it to. Because Giles has a fight style that is just kind of silly, and Parsons just isn't super high level. CJ Vergara versus Daniel Da Silva. That was a fun fight. And Vinicius Salvador versus Victor Altamirano. Also a fun fight, although one that didn't feel super high level either. Let us get into the actual fight. So, at the top of the card, obviously, I'm not going to say a lot about Vera Sandhagen. I really wish I could, but the fight was pretty simplistic in its vibe. Sandhagen was active, pressuring, throwing far more volume, landing far more, and scoring like takedowns throughout the fight. And realistically, I think there are only 2 rounds in which you could make an argument for Vera doing anything, which is the third round, which I did not score for him. He was outlanded 32-20, but I did think there were a couple of like decent shots he landed in that round. And I did give him the 5th round. The 5th round was the only one with a single-digit strike differential. Again, the strike differential is not everything. The volume is not everything. But if it stands to somewhat reason that when you're closer together, like for example in round 1, you get outlanded 32-5. Yeah, unless those 5 strikes are like the greatest strikes in the world, you didn't win that round. And the first 2 rounds were obviously Sandhagen's. He got takedowns, landed some ground and pound, had like 2 minute plus, about 6 minutes of control between the 2 rounds. And then, the third round, like I said, a little bit closer. 4th round, I thought Sandhagen took it. He landed the better shot. Not the better shots. He landed more shots, and Vera didn't specifically hurt him at any point. And the 5th round, like I said, I did give to Vera. But at the end of the day, one judge somehow, and apparently this was his 4th ever professional fight judged, Joel Ohaja, who also did the Alexander Peterson fight earlier in the card. To be clear, that fight was actually properly scored, in my opinion, by him. But he scored 3 rounds for Vera. He gave the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th. And I said on Twitter, that is exceedingly generous. And to be honest, some people thought I was being exceedingly generous by saying it was exceedingly generous. And it wasn't just complete bullshit. I don't really see how you can give the 4th round to Vera. He did not significantly hurt. Either actually. He didn't significantly hit. He didn't significantly hurt Sandhagen in the round. He did get outlanded. I know this is a damage-based scoring criteria. That does lay a huge amount of subjectability to things that you can interpret. One big punch is something that turns the round or not. But here's the thing. It didn't happen here. After the fight, Sandhagen called out Merab with the corniest call out of all time. But hey, he said it was going to be corny, so I'm fine with it. I do think that is the fight to make, because realistically, you have 2 fighters who are very much at the top of the division, but you really couldn't sell fighting Aljo. Merab, because he won't take that fight. Sandhagen, because Aljo absolutely steamrolled him when they fought the first time. Like, it would take an abundance of clearing the division out and impressive performances, probably with finishes, for me to be like, you know what? Corey Sandhagen has earned a shot at Aljo after how one-sided their first fight was. Like, that's the thing we're dealing with here. And that's why this fight honestly feels like the only one that really makes sense at the top of the division for Sandhagen. For Vera, I went way down and went just like with a fun fight with Kyler Phillips. I'd love to see it. I know that it probably won't happen. It's a fight with no real payoff for Cheeto. So he should not take it. But like at the same time, I don't really think Cheeto Vera but with the way he fights, I don't really think Cheeto Vera thinks in ways that this is going to be necessarily the most intelligent thing in the world, I guess, in a nutshell. Like, his fighting style is give away rounds until I can hurt you really badly. And I don't know. That feels like a guy who might just take a fun fight with Kyler Phillips. Holly Holm, like I said, dominated Yana Santos. By the way, went 9-1 in this card. The only loss I had was picking Steven Peterson. I will say that my picks were less convincing than that, because if we lower our way down here a bit, I picked Macy Barber and scored the fight for Andrea Lee. Fortunately for me, the judges disagreed with me. I picked Albert Duraev and scored the fight for Chidi Njokwani. That one went to Duraev as well. And there was a third fight, Trevin Giles, Preston Parsons, that I scored for Parsons, but I picked Giles. So I kind of got lucky on those 3. That being said, I also got very unlucky that Steven Peterson's retiring, but we'll go deeper into that one. I don't have much to say about the Holm Santos fight. It was a Holm fight. It was a Santos fight. It was Santos trying to out Holm. And I said way back in the day about Darren Elkins, I think was the fighter I was talking about at the time. You don't beat the OG at their own game. And that's what Santos tried to do here. Like, she was incredibly willing to go into the clinch where she was bossed around and put on her back and caught in crucifix and caught in side control. And I think there was a mountain there as well at some point. It was a fight that just shows that, you know what, Holmes still, if you're not going to avoid Holmes' game, she is actually going to beat you still, even at the age of 41. I don't question her preparedness as a fighter or as a or to do what she does. I just question her preparedness after the fight. Her post fight. She went with the, like, you know, we have to protect against the over sexualization of children. And to be clear, this has been a right wing, like, you know, pushing point for, like, anti-transition, drag queens, so on. Which is ridiculous because, to be clear, you want to know what my first experience with drag was? Bugs Bunny. Bugs Bunny. That is the first moment in my life where drag was presented to me. And that was 30 plus years ago. And no one made a big deal about it. No one made a big deal about the fact that we had drag queens, literally drag queens, in cartoons. And probably on TV, if we're honest. Well, actually, we did, because Mrs. Doubtfire would technically be a drag queen. And no one made a big deal about that. And in fact, if we want to continue to extrapolate this for the conservative mindset, when people started talking about, hey, maybe we should do some things with Yosemite Sam and Elmer Fudd in regards to guns, which I don't agree with, to be clear. I actually do side with the conservative side on that particular issue. But it's like, oh my God, we can't change a cartoon of okay, well, what about the drag aspects? Because you probably, keeping in tune with the rest of the things, you'd probably have to change that. Anyways, it's just silly. And afterwards, when confronted with it, she's like, really trying to play it off as just generalization. Here's the thing. You're the preacher's daughter. I believe, to be clear, her family is Catholic. Am I wrong on that? Am I just assuming that all Irish Americans are Catholic? I don't know. But, like, as pointed out, someone put up a list of, like, yes, over-sexualization of children is actually a problem. Here's a list of all the American cities where we've had sexual assault by priests in the last, like, decade. And it's a long list. So, yeah. Also, I mean, and again, like, the thing is like, people are trying to be like, no, you're making mountains out of molehills. Holly Holm has been in the QAnon circles. Her gym has been a brooding place for them. She hangs around with personalities who did it, who peddle in these theories. I'm sorry, everybody. Holly Holm is a conspiracy nut when it comes to probably transphobia and drag queens. I would honestly respect it if she owned it. I'm not asking for the cancellation or whatever. This is fighting. I've always said this. This is fighting. People are going to have harmful views and so on, and we pretty much have to deal with it as long as there's no action associated with it. So I'm not asking for anything to happen. I'm just kind of asking for the bravery of Holly Holm to translate into, owning it. It's kind of like I was watching a debate with about whether Donald Trump was racist, and the guy arguing he wasn't. The debate never got off the ground, for the record, because the pro Donald Trump is racist, which I actually do disagree with, ironically, basically refused to debate a neo-Nazi on the topic of is someone racist, because it was obvious that the other guy was, a neo-Nazi and himself kind of racist, race realism, etc. It's like, how do you debate someone else's racism with racist? It's just kind of weird. Just own it. Just own it. It's not like anything's gonna happen to Holly Holm, but she just owns her detransitioning platform. Like, whatever. That would be the brave move. Anyways, that's the only stupid political thing I'm gonna get on to. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to next fights. Man, I have nothing better than like a rematch with Ketlin Vieira for Holm, and that is sad. Santos, I have the winner of Carol Hossa and Norma Dumont. Okay. Nate Landwehr versus Austin Lingo. Fun fight. Kind of was going how I expected it to. Lingo being very, very active, doing his thing, throwing more punches. I had him winning the first round, just basically on volume and activity. But Landwehr was starting to find counters. He was starting to actually find his timing and give him a good pop, because Lingo is a pace guy, but he's a guy who has a little bit of a pattern, and you can plan for counters. And Landwehr also working the body, so on. Eventually got a takedown, got his back, got the rear naked choke on the second try. Boom, boom, bingo. Post-fight interview where, he did his standard thing. And to be honest, I enjoy Nate Landwehr's post-fights. I'm not going to try and sell you on the content, but it's the genuine article that he appears to be. Like this is him. Whereas someone like an Ian Gary is trying to be something they're not. Trying to be Conor McGregor 2.0, basically. Landwehr just is Landwehr. He's never going to win like a title or fight for a title or get into a main event, but he's fun. He's king action fighter. He wants Alex Caceres, which was the original booking here. I don't see why you don't go to that. It's a fun fight. It makes a lot of sense. For Austin Lingo, I have Melsik Bagdasaryan as his opponent. Then we had Andrea Lee, Macy Barber. I have more to say about this fight, because this fight, I think, really summed up the problems for both ladies. So with Lee, you have the problem that Barber was essentially able to more or less take her down at will. I'm kind of interested. What are the stats? Let's break down the stats here. So Barber landed more, apparently 48 to 39 over the course of the fight. She landed more in the first, second, and third round, although the third round very, very close, 14 to 12 on 6 strikes. But yeah, both ladies got taken down a fair bit. I actually completely forgot that Lee scored 5 takedowns in her own right. They're both easy to take down because they're sloppy brute force grapplers. I had Lee winning the fight. I scored all 3 rounds for Lee. I will be honest. I can totally see Barber winning the third round. I have no problem with that. I could see Barber winning the second round. I have no problem with that. I do think Lee won the first round, specifically. There was too much top control and dominance there for my taste. Was that the round where she hit the kind of weird-ass arm trap? Let me have a look here. Yeah, the first round was where Barber did hit that. She got taken down and she hit this weird arm trap thing on Lee. I don't know, maybe. I don't know. It allowed her to land a couple of shots and everything. Lee got away with an illegal knee here. I'm actually entirely certain. But she was on her back for a while. Lee even got back control. And sure, she had a nice ending to the round. She had by she I mean Macy. She hit a nice counter elbow really, really late in the round. It was probably the best shot of the fight. I don't know. I guess you could argue that this maybe is a Barber round, but I thought this was the hard Lee round. And then the second and third were kind of toss-ups. Barber is frustrating because on one hand, she's a fantastic physical force and bully fighter. And she seems to actually have a mentality that she keeps going. She keeps going. She actually gets more comfortable as the fight goes on, which a lot of bully fighters don't do. She responds to adversity, mentally speaking, without breaking, really, really well, and has all the building blocks for an exceptional women's flyweight. But it's paired to like this incredibly sloppy game. Incredibly sloppy. And I just don't think Team Alpha Male is the place to be, because Team Alpha Male's strategy in this fight appeared to be, all right, we're going to throw kicks. They're going to get blocked, and Lee's going to break her arm. And don't get me wrong, you can break an arm with kicks. But you really should actually have ideas to land strikes, to do things, to implement offense beyond hoping a bone breaks. And a lot of her strikes just got blocked. Like I'm not even sure she landed more strikes in this fight. And again, I want to be clear. I picked her. I picked her. I am arguing that the fighter I picked should have lost this fight. She didn't really make use of the body nearly as much as as she should, because Lee carries her hands exceptionally high. Like that is part of why her takedown defense is so bad. But it also leaves her body wide open. I don't know why people don't light that up, but I don't know. It was just a really sloppy fight. It was a really, really sloppy fight. I guess who was the judge that was it? Tandan? Yeah, it was Tandan Mergliata. Let's see here. Let's pull up the cards. Frank Collazo went rounds 1 and 2 to Barber, round 3 to Lee. I don't know. I thought Barber's best round was the third round. I don't know. It's a bit weird. Chris Lee has probably the best scorecard here. Well, no, not really, because they all gave Barber the first round. I don't know. I guess that arm trap really worked wonders, I guess. It was a good sequence. I just thought that the rest of the fight, basically she had two moments. She had the arm trap and she landed some shots from bottom. And she had that one good counter elbow in the round. And that was kind of it. I really did feel like that was a Lee round. But apparently I was a bit alone. There were a couple of 30-27s for Lee in the press scores. I'd say fairly split. Like, again, I have no problem with Barber winning the fight. It was just a fight that highlighted both ladies' problems. But the 30-27 by Dan Mergliata, who's a not super great ref and apparently is not a super great judge either, was a bridge too far, I thought. Anyways, for next opponents, Barber, I've got her against Amanda Ribas. Let her fight someone who's going to match her up on strength. Well, maybe not, actually, because Ribas is a beast at strawweight and not quite as much of a beast at flyweight. And for Lee, I've got Casey O'Neill. Because I'm kind of giving up on both of these girls ever necessarily turning that corner I was kind of hoping for. But so they're becoming kind of prove-it fights. Chidi Njokuani versus Albert Duraev. So the first round, unquestionably Duraev's. He caught a kick, got the takedown. Did have some good control there. Chidi managed to get back up. I thought there was a cage grab. Didn't see Twitter making a big deal about it, but I did think there was a cage grab. And Duraev then, took him back down and more or less rode the round out. It's a round for Duraev. It's nothing super exciting, but it's the old analogy that people are like, oh, you can't win a round by just taking people that. Well, you can. You can if the other guy is doing basically nothing. Like we had 50-50 striking and then the takedowns. So I gave that round to Duraev. I gave the second and the third round to Chidi because the takedowns stopped coming. Not that Chidi was doing an amazing job or whatever. He did wobble Duraev in the second round with a good uppercut. I think it was an uppercut. It was starting to, had little moments where he seemed to be figuring things out, but he didn't ever turn it up. Which is the big problem, I think, with Chidi, is that you can give Chidi an advantage and he won't define the fight by it. The commentary was pretty anti him. What were the numbers actually on this fight? Because I'm kind of interested if I just got lured into calling the fight for Chidi essentially because I just think he's a better striker. He got outlanded in the second round. I guess that could be around the given. Let's have a look at that. Let's have a look at the cards. I'm kind of this is the fight I'm kind of interested in from a scoring standpoint. Sal D'Amato gave Duraev the first two rounds. Chris Lee had my card, giving it to Njokuani. Oh, I feel dirty. And then Mergliata scored the first two rounds for Duraev. That's perfectly fair. I'm looking at his stats down. Apparently Duraev did land more. And I don't know. I would still give him that round because he was the one that got wobbled. He never significantly hurt Chidi during the fight in the striking phases because Chidi is, a rock star. It was a fight. It was a fight though, like the Lee Barber fight, in that it's defined by the flaws in their respective games. Duraev won the first round really easily, going for takedowns. But apparently, he didn't want to go for takedowns because he went for one takedown after that. And the only real takedown exchange he did was catching a kick. So Duraev looked at Chidi and apparently wanted to kickbox with him. So I infinitely regret the pick, even though I ended up winning it. But I feel like I was very wrong because Duraev didn't fight smart. And Chidi has the flaw where, like, dude fights at the pace of the other guy. And I really wish he would fight at a higher pace. C'est la vie. Please keep Chidi away from, like, any kind of wrestler or, like, low-paced fighter. Because I want to see him do fun stuff. He's not a prospect. He is too old to be a prospect. He's not going to be a challenger for the title. He's not going to be all of these things unless he pulls a Michael Bisping. Just give him fun action fights. I've got the loser of Razak Al-Hassan Bruno Fahea as a perfect fight for him. And for Duraev, I have Jung Young Park. Iron Turtle. Before that, we had the Cowboy Cerrone Hall of Fame induction. And here's an example. I disagree with pretty much everything about Donald Cerrone's politics. But dude's an awesome fighter. Welcome to the Hall of Fame. Feels good. I will say, there are some people talking about how his lack of titles and his lack of eliteness do make it hard to actually justify putting him in the Hall of Fame. And I do agree, because there are people who should have gone in before him. But we also know that the UFC Hall of Fame is a joke. Because they're not going to put anyone in, like, they're never going to put Demetrius Johnson in. They're not going to put Francis Ngannou in. They're not going to put, they probably won't even put, like, Frank Shamrock in. Like, all of these people who, or Ortiz, like, all of these people who should absolutely be in the Hall of Fame are never going to be there. So, like, you know, just enjoy people who you enjoyed going into the Hall of Fame. I enjoyed Donald Cerrone's career. There you go. Daniel Pineda, Tucker Lutz. Pineda getting the win here. Doing his thing. He was able to put Lutz down. Lutz did get back up, to be clear. And you know, prove that he is a hard guy to manhandle. He's big and strong. But I don't know. He never really got going. In fact, his own takedowns were, like, terrible. just terrible. they were quite bad. Like, there was one where he went for a takedown against Pineda in the first round and just basically, like, face planted. It's just, oh my lord, that is so bad. Pineda is, like, also really wants to do that, like, a spinning back fist knockout, like, so clearly. He's like naked spins out there all day. It's not how anyone should fight, but it works for Daniel Pineda if you want to have a career where you have 20 plus wins, almost 30 wins, and you win them all by finish, but you lose double-digit fights. Meant to, like, to some people you really shouldn't. In the second round, Lutz goes for a takedown. We end up with Pineda looking for a guillotine off of the stuffing. My friend Javier, who has watched the fights, is like, "Don't be silly, don't jump the gilly." And yeah, I mean, Pineda didn't, but it's something he will do. But he did get the front headlock kind of moment there, where he, like, controlled the posture, yanked Lutz down, hit him with a knee. And I think that was really what ended the fight, because I think Lutz was not gassed, rocked from that point onwards, because his decision making was quite poor. Pineda goes for the guillotine. It looks tight. Lutz does get out of the guillotine, but he ends up giving up his back. Pineda goes to mount. Lutz does manage to get his guard back somehow. And then they get into this little bit of a scramble where Lutz is trying to get up, and then boom, back in the guillotine, boom, tap out. Pineda getting the win by guillotine is, you know, it's very Pineda. Daniel Pineda versus Pat Sabatini, I think, would be a fun fight. I've got Tucker Lutz, who I still don't believe in. And to be clear, my big problem with Tucker Lutz is he was the biggest favorite on a lot of bookies and was the second biggest favorite on the card overall. There was someone who was minus 286. He was minus 285 at his highest. Barbara was minus 286 at her highest. She was the only one higher. And you can't make Tucker Lutz that big of a favorite. No. I've got him against Blake Builder, who is another guy that I guess I don't have a hard cap on, but I don't also believe in. Steven Peterson versus Lucas Alexander. I'm not going to say much about this fight. Essentially, I picked Peterson to win this fight by coming forward, being aggressive, being busy, being active, smashing the clinch, and being Steven Peterson. He was not. He looked timid. He never really got any kind of offense going, any kind of momentum at any point in the fight. Alexander was able to pick him apart with range strikes and hit a couple counters. The strike numbers in this fight, at least when they were showing them on the broadcast, were incredibly one-sided. It ended up being 85-26 by the end of it. Peterson landed double-digit strikes in only one round. That is terrible. Turns out he was retiring. After the fight, he took the gloves off, retired, talked about he's going to go into coaching. He is a guy I would like to. I would recommend because he's a guy who made it to the UFC without UFC physicality. He's a guy. I was talking with Javier while we were watching this. He's a guy who I've always admired because he has one way to fight. Honestly, one way of any success to fight, and he did it. He embraced it. He embraced the damage that undoubtedly did, the wars that led him into being in just to win fights, and I have nothing but respect for him. But this performance was dog crap. I don't think it really answers any of my questions about Alexander in terms of how he handles pressure and pace, because it just wasn't really put on him. But hey, he also had a touching post-fight where he talked about a training partner and friend of his passing away, and they've set up a GoFundMe for the kids and family. If you've got some money to spare, I would check that out. It's a bit of a tragedy. I've got Alexander versus Jamal Emmers as a guy who is a more athletic kind of guy who can play an aggressive pace and pressure game. And I would still like to see how that goes. And for Peterson, like I said, retirement. It looked like he was mentally checked out. And this was my lone loss on the card. I feel good about it because in the sense of things, I picked Peterson to be Peterson, and he wasn't Peterson. Trevin Giles, Preston Parsons. This was fun. This was a fun fight. This is another fight where I'm going to pull up the stats here real quick because it was a close fight. Let's see here. Round 1, 14-14, significant strikes. Giles had 18-13 in the second round and 20. Hey, he did have 23-42 in the 23-15 in the third round. I honestly didn't think Giles outlanded him in the third round. But hey, UFC stats is the best that I have to go with. Anyways, so I gave the first and third round to Parsons. I can definitely, obviously now see that the third round could go to Giles. Parsons had a good first round. He was able to, clinch and bully Giles around, which I honestly didn't think he was going to be able to do. I mean, Giles fought Roman Dolidze and didn't really have a problem with him in the clinch. So it was a bit weird to see Parsons putting him there. Maybe Parsons is a lot stronger than I just think he is. And, but he wasn't able to fully control him. Like Giles made the clinches pretty 50-50 despite Parsons' constant desire to get in there. The one thing I did really, really like, though, from Parsons, particularly in the first round, is that when the clinches broke, he would batter Giles with a hook pretty much every time. Like he would make sure to punish him off of the clinch pretty much throughout the fight, which was nice. I mean, that's good. The clinch would fail, but he would break it, and he would give him the clinch break punch. Those can be exceptionally effective. But Giles was catching him coming in with some solid punches of his own. They ended up, did they go to the ground in this round? Yeah, they did a little bit. Parsons got a bit of a takedown, managed to drag Giles down. Giles got half guard with about 90 seconds left in the round. Parsons got caught in a buggy choke. Although I will say this, I don't think the buggy choke was anywhere near working. I mean, admittedly, it's a choke we've never seen work in the UFC. We have seen it work in Bellator, but at a low level. It's cool, I guess, kind of like the barber arm trap. But at the end of the day, Parsons, did get out of it, did survive it. Went for an arm bar, lost top control. Giles finished up inside control with about 30 seconds to go, but he did not steal the round. I think Parsons clearly won this round. Giles clearly won the second round. It was defined by the fact that Giles was starting to find a lot more counters and a lot more of the timing of Parsons, because Parsons kind of fights at the same speed all the time. There's not a lot of change up to him. It's like a fastball pitcher. The fastball is coming, and if you can catch up with it, you've got it. Parsons got staggered, but he was still able to get things into the clinch. I have a note here that I was like, I want more of the lead hand from Giles because it's really lurking. His counter jab in this fight, when he elected to use it, was quite good. And in the end, yeah, sure, there was some scrambling, but grappling. But at the end of the day, Parsons was kind of getting pieced up in this round. He was outlanded considerably, and he got tired. So, and again, it was a case where at the end of the round, Giles reversed Parsons, ended up on top, letting some ground pound. Very good round for him. And then the third round was much the same. Parsons trying to bully, running out of gas. Giles running out of gas. Parsons had a nice arm triangle attempt in this round, but he eventually had to ditch it because he was like right up against the fence. Had to go to mount. And realistically, I will say I really dislike the last 70 seconds or so from Giles here, because he's mounted by Parsons. He hits the old push off the cage and buck up to create separation and create a chance to get him off of you. He does that. That's great. That's fine. And then doesn't really do much with top position. And keep in mind, I was under the impression that Parsons had won the round up until this point. And maybe he did. And maybe this actually did turn the round for him. But Giles did not land nearly the vengeance of GMP I would have liked to see. But anyways, Giles did get the split here. Looking at the stats, it's more comfortable with that, although I did score it for Parsons. Really just comes down to how you saw the third round. Anyways, for Giles next, I got Mike Malott. For Parsons, I got Brian Battle. I don't really have a lot. I come out of this fight with being like, Giles could be a really good fighter. Problem is, he's in his 30s. He was a part-time fighter for a long time because he was a cop. And he has developed a style that I think just has inherent problems. So many inherent problems. Parsons has developed a meta style that I think functions perfectly well with his physicality. But the problem is, he got tired in this fight. He wore down. And essentially, if you're going to do that, I have problems. I said who I have them fighting next. CJ Vergara versus Daniel Da Silva. My lord, Daniel Da Silva, 10-8 first round. Now, I will say this. Two of the judges then gave it 10-9. I actually don't have a big problem with that. Now, to be clear, I have always said I want more 10-8s in my life. I would love going back up the card here for a month if Alexander and Peterson ended up being a 30-24. I think all three of those rounds could be 10-8 rounds where Peterson was just ineffective. And Vergara was hurt so badly he was running away from Da Silva in this round. And you could have stopped it, and I would not have had a problem. But here's the thing, is the difference in strikes landed actually was not especially high, because Da Silva has such bad ring craft. He couldn't cut the cage. He couldn't he is a highlight reel. Hey, spinning back kick, jumping knee strike, Superman punch, push off the cage with the power jab, and he'll hurt you. But my lord, is he a guy you can survive against, because he will not keep you where he can hit you. It's literally. I'm pretty sure. I'm gonna take. This is kind of a wild guess here, but I'm gonna bet 13 strikes, 19 strikes, 27 strikes. I'm gonna bet that two of Alexander's fights had larger strike differentials than Yeah, one of them actually did. Wow. It did wind up being 44-20 for Lacerda, but Lacerda de Silva, I'm not sure what the deal with his name is. Hang on. We can find this out. If I go to Tapology for a hot second here. What is the deal? Is this one of those, like, there are two parts to his Portuguese-inspired Brazilian last name? Daniel de Silva. Daniel Lacerda de Silva. Yeah, okay. So Lacerda is the first part, and then it's... yes, I guess Lacerda would make the most sense. Also, I think it just stands out more. There's a lot of Silvas and de Silvas in MMA. Yeah, so, like, a great first round. And he comes out the second round, and he's gassed. And CJ Vergara starts working his legs, start working some body shots. Lacerda still throwing back, still doing things, spinning elbow shit. Got a calf slicer, interestingly enough, when the fight went to the ground. But CJ ends up on top, starts unloading, goes for an arm triangle, can't get it. And then just elbows. Eventually, Lacerda gives up his back, gets pounded out. This is a Lacerda fight. Like, he burns himself up like a thing of C4. If you do not die in the first round, you are probably going to beat him. And he's not even necessarily good at killing you. He's exceptionally good at hurting fighters. He's not actually good at finishing them. He's now 0-4 in the UFC. I have him getting cut. I assume this was the last fight of his contract. I see him going out the door. I have no problem with him still being here. Adam Martin posts on Twitter how he's like, I could watch him fight all day. And I agree. He just stick him on a card for him to take a loss to some new guy, and I'm fine with it, especially with how shallow flyweight is. But I'm not going to rack my brain to come up with, like, actual matchups for the guy, because I just think he's going to lose. For Vergara, I've got Jake Hadley. Jake Hadley had a big win against Malcolm Gordon, but the win is somewhat tempered by the fact that essentially he kicked Gordon in a liver that was, decomposing itself. And don't get me wrong, I said this to a friend when I was breaking down, like, the Usman fight. I can't believe that people don't kick Usman's bad knees more. Well, it's the same thing if you know a guy has a bad liver, you freaking kick it. Anyways, but that's the fight I would do, even though it feels a little bit further down the way than probably what Hadley has in mind, because Hadley wants Mokaev, but I assume Mokaev's going to be on the shelf for a long time. Vinicius Salvador is kind of the same thing as Lacerda, just not quite as bad. I gave the first and the third to Altamirano. I'd be interested to see how that lines up with the judges here real quick, because they all went 29-28. Yeah, everybody had that card. I'm fine with that. Let's pull up the stats just to back it up a little bit here. Altamirano landed more in the first and the third. It was dead even in the second, but Salvador was clearly the guy landing, like, the harder shots. Like, Altamirano doesn't throw super hard, and two, everything Salvador throws has, like, mean venom on it. Salvador is the favorite in this fight, and I don't really understand why. He's a super sloppy striker. Like, he's creative and everything. Altamirano does have terrible defense. Like, dude does not bob and weave. Dude is, like, ducking his head into punches and stuff. He's gonna eat super bad uppercuts at some point. Like, at some point, he's winning fights right now because he fought the aforementioned Daniel Lacerda and now Vinicius Salvador, who are, like, just super flawed fighters. He's gonna get someone who's just gonna be like, so you are incredibly prone to getting uppercutted. Boom. I don't really have much more to say. It was like a low-level, super sloppy fight. There was a person in my Discord who is a kickboxer by trade who was just having a brain aneurysm watching it. It was fun. It was exciting. It was high-paced. There was cool stuff, but it was largely just terrible. I've got Altamirano versus Clayton Carpenter, who's a fighter with a lot of physical skill, like a lot of physicality, but not a lot of necessary skill. Needs a lot of tempering. Altamirano is the perfect guy to kind of, see what he can do against. And for Salvador, I've got Mokaev victim, Jafal Filio. I think that would be... again, the problem here is just like flyweight's really small as a division. I think there's like 20 some of them. Hang on. They've got numbers here. I should really pull this up here. UFC roster. Wikipedia keeps a fairly decent one here. Flyweights. There are... Just a big sneeze. There are 45. I am very confused by that. How do we have 45 flyweights? This feels wrong. Are there like a bunch of dudes who haven't actually debuted in the flyweight division, maybe? Let's see here. Debuted flyweight fighters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30, 33. Okay, yeah. 36, 39, 42. Yeah, there's 45. I think a lot of it is a lot of them haven't fought much because, I mean, if we look at the bottom here, we got Salvador, Filo, Carpenter, Shannon Ross, Choi Sung-guk, Park Hung-sung, Jesus Aguilar, Alessandro Costa. All of these guys won fights only in the UFC. And then there's a lot even at like just 2 fights in the UFC, like Carlos Candelario, Clayton Rodriguez, Carlos Hernandez. Dennis Bondar is another one that's only on 1. 2 for Juan Camilo Ronderos. I love that name. I do. He's not going to be here long. He's not a good fighter, but I do like the name. I do like the name. I feel like an old man looking at the flyweight division because there is literally only 2 flyweights older than me on the entire roster. Also, Tyson Ham is 39. The world is not fair. Anyways. There's still not much of the division. A lot of it is trying to find its way. Wow, they still have JP Buys under contract. Oh boy. I think that's the other thing is there's a bunch of guys that I just assume are cut on this list, like Lacerda after tonight. JP Buys, like I said, being 0-3 is kind of a problem. Candelario, Ronderos are absolute placeholders. Shannon Ross, oh my God, he is terrible. Also, not really a fan of Jesus Aguilar. He's that really short dude who likes to do guillotines. I think I actually don't even remember who he is. And then you have the road to the UFC Korean guys who I don't have a lot of faith in. Also, don't have a lot of faith in Jimmy Flick. So yeah, there's a lot of guys who probably won't be on this roster in a while. That's why it seems smaller than it is. Anyways, that was the fight card. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back later this week for the next UFC card. I should actually check before I say that there is a UFC card coming up this weekend. There is UFC 287. Or is that in 2 weeks? I think that's in 2 weeks. Yeah, that's it. That's April 8th. So Bellator gets the highlight coming up this weekend. What do we got? Marcelo Golden, Daniel James, Kat Zingano, Leah McCourt, Aaron Jeffrey, John Salter. Oh my God. Come on, Bellator. Put on something cool so I can talk about you and do things. I do like Sullivan Cauley. He's kind of fun. He's a Ryan Bader protege. He's not fighting anyone particularly good. He's fighting Luke Trainer. Adam Piccolotti's on the card. Wow, this is, even by Bellator standards, man, this is not good. Lance Gibson Jr. is on the card. I could talk about him. Christian Edwards, I guess. Randy Field. Randy Field's Canadian. Windsor, Ontario, baby. Yeah. Got into MMA way too late, I will say that much. Got into MMA in her 30s. But hey, she's there. She's Canadian. I'll probably have some fun with that. This is a bad card. So yeah, I guess I'll throw on the end of this. If you got any questions you want me to answer, you can leave them in the YouTube comments below. You can leave them on the Discord. And I'll try and get to them because this is not going to be a long episode. Oh my lord. Sorry, Temecula, California. You are not getting a good Bellator offering. But anyways, I call it an episode, and I'll talk to you next time.